things. Since the 1980s, in fact, the last time Nairobi was well managed was perhaps in 1978-79, during the final leg of the Andrew Ngumba mayorship in Nairobi. After that, it has been chaos, and where we are, it's even more chaotic. And sometimes you ask the question, when all this is happening, where are the Nairobians? Why don't they speak for their city? We have had a situation where the laws about the government of Nairobi have been defied with the impunity. And Nairobians have not been there to stand up for their city, their home, that we have lived without a deputy mayor for I don't know how long. It did not concern us. At some point, we did not have a speaker in the county assembly. It has never bothered us as Nairobians. We are apathetic.
So probably what could be the problem with the citizens, Barack?
I don't know. It's for me, largely apathy on the part of our Nabe middle class. A middle class that should recognize that the city and the country rides on its back because it's the tax-paying class. But it's a middle class that likes to turn a blind eye to everything. That the roads are bad. Just now, if you go to Westlands, you go to parts of Lavington, parts of Kileleshwa, the roads are in a despicable state. But Nairobians will buy four-wheel drives because they believe those will get them home. There is no water in the taps. Nairobians will find their own ways of buying water. There's no garbage collection, which they are paying for. There's no proper working sewage system. And we are just apathetic. We behave as if it doesn't matter because we think that we have our homes in Kakamega, our homes in Muranga, Kiambu, Nyeri, and wherever. And even when the time to elect the leaders like Sonko comes, you find us driving to Kakamega and going to Mombasa to vote there. Then we come back to live in Nairobi. We need to be asking ourselves, who are we living Nairobi to vote for us?
We will definitely get back to that because it's also a very critical matter to speak about. But I would like to hook in Mark Bichachi on this one. You did hear your learned Fred as well, talking about the various challenges that Nairobi is currently experiencing at the moment. Mark, I would also probably want to hear your comment on this one. He dated back to 1978, and we have seen other leaders before, technocrats like Evans Kidero, who have also faced the same challenges that the current governor is facing. Probably, what's your take on this? Are we the Nairobi that we used to be, or what's your take on that?
Well, one of the things about Nairobi and Nairobians is we live by a very funny maxim. And our maxim is this, that for as long as I can afford private opulence, the public can remain in squalor, it bothers me not. And that is really the crux of the issue of Nairobi. That those who consider themselves learned, those who consider themselves bourgeoisie, have no problem queuing in line to vote for intellectual inferiors, moral inferiors, and to vote for the draining of the coffers of Nairobi. And they do this eyes wide open, ears fully working, and a mind that is able to make millions. Now, that is irony number one. Irony number two is that it takes 2 days to realize that Sonko is completely incapable. In fact, if we were just to take language and his use of it as a definition of what has filled his heart, because even Jesus said from the fullness of his heart, a man speaks. Surely, what is this man full of? And how then should we sit here to debate that the national city, the county that is most important to the Republic of Kenya, should be continually treated to a leadership which I dare anyone to allow their daughter married by the kind of Sonko, and you tell me how he is able to wed the whole of Nairobi. So that is the problem.
All right, and Barak, just going back to the question of Martha's leadership, you did say that the citizens are the ones who elect their leaders, and later on, we are the same people complaining about the challenges that you mentioned earlier. And the governor, of course, is now given the mandate by the people, but some people also allude that they elect their leaders, maybe they are swayed away by their popularity. And the question now comes in then, who has the role, or whose role is it to create that awareness of literacy levels for citizens especially?
You know, I've talked about the middle class, the educated, intellectual middle class. It is concentrated right here in Nairobi. Mm-hmm. If you are to look at East Africa, the Eastern and Central African region, demographically, the most learned class in the whole region, it is superbly concentrated in this space that we call the city of Nairobi. But it is an apathetic class, like Mark Bichachi and I are saying.
Okay.
It is a class that is very narrowly focused on its individualism, such that when they see someone like Mark Bichachi or myself or some other intellectual moving anywhere close to what you may call the political class, they wonder what is wrong with us. And the net result is that the city of Nairobi has, for the past now almost 4 decades, been governed by the worst elements in society. Government such as we have had in Nairobi is in social science described as a kakistocracy. A kakistocracy is government by the worst elements of society. And we don't even know who our MCAs are. When we see them fighting in the county assembly, ask the average person in Kilimani ward. I vote in Kilimani ward. Ask them who their MCA is. They don't know. Ask them even who their MP is. Some of them don't know. And because of that, we have ended up with a class of robber barons in Nairobi, who in the past used to get to the city council with the express purpose of stealing. It's about tenders, it's about plots, it's about buildings, it's about rates, and that's why they are fighting every day. Even now, when we look at the impeachment of Sonko, whether he's going to be impeached or not, it's a war among robber barons. They are gangsters in the city county, and they are divided into 2 camps. From time to time, this one wrestles the city from the other one. We remember, for example, in 1993, it was just after Steve Mwangi, who I think is the closest that we have ever come to a good father of the city since the Isaac Lugonzo, Margaret Kenyatta, Andrew Kimani Ngumba years. Just a few days, 2 months I think it was, after he took over, and because he was specifying a different direction, I think he was the councillor from a ward somewhere in Starehe. He went on to become MP for Starehe for a short while. Mayor Kingori, John Flavian Kingori, and some other fellows came and took over from him through a coup that then went on to the courts, all the way up to the Court of Appeal. And you have had these things of in and out, Majiwa, Ladwa, I don't know who. Meanwhile, we stand by and look on with disinterest. We are not even like football fans. You know, I've seen football fans who talk about the European League and the Premier League, and they say things like, today we have beaten you. There's some little passion that they have, although they get nothing out of it apart from the kick of thinking that the team that they support has won. We are indifferent. So we need to wake up ourselves as Nairobians, you and I, and others who are watching in this city. I have lived in this city of Nairobi since the 1960s. I went to primary school here. I did part of my secondary school here. I have lived here throughout my adult life. I have seen the city degenerate.
All right. Barak, I think just hold on to that thought. We will be taking a short break right here on K24 Evening Edition. And when we come back, we'll also be giving a chance to Mark Bichachi to also respond to that. Don't go too far. We'll be right back. And welcome back to our discussion. We will continue to talk about matters in Nairobi. And before we went for that break, Barak Muluka was just speaking on just who is responsible to probably just enlighten the citizens of Kenya on just who to elect. And this time around, I will give Mark Bichachi just a chance to also comment on the same.
One of the things that Barak has said that is very true, that Nairobi has become a kakistocracy, and there's no greater sign than the first two governors that Kenya has had to see hold the seat of governor of Nairobi. Now, why is that the case? And we must now focus on what the remedies are. Remedy number one is our political parties, starting with NARC Kenya, which had the unfortunate privilege of introducing us to Gideon Buvi's Sonko, should seriously look into their internal party structures. How do they make sure that the kind of candidates they're fielding to Kenyans are the kind of candidates that matter? That they are the kind of candidates that can hold a flame to intellectualism, that can hold a flame to hope, that can hold a flame to transformation. They need to run away from popularism. It cannot be that in a world where the Kenyans need a dentist, we keep voting for the guy who sells sweets. It cannot be in a country where we need roads, we keep voting for people who buy blankets in lieu of policy. It cannot be. Secondly, we need to address ourselves and ask ourselves the serious question that we as Kenyans, are we serious about Chapter 6? Is Chapter 6 the flower girl of our constitution? Because I wonder to myself that when one self-confesses to be a prison prefect, when one has cases which the DCI has said that he has not finished his term in certain places, allegedly, How then is it that this person is capable of becoming a governor? So are we as a country, are we as the IEBC, are we as voters serious about Chapter 6, or do we consider it a decoration in our constitution? Thirdly, senators, as they vote today, and as they behave the way they are behaving today, they must ask themselves, what is heavier? The pocket that brings you 10,000 shillings, as they allege to have received in some dark quarters of parliament, or the weight and the fate of 4 million Kenyans living in Nairobi who've put their hopes and dreams in you? Do you have the temerity, the gall, the bravado to stand before Senate, as John McCain once did, and he lifted his hand, his brain full of a brain tumor, but full of bravery and courage, and did the right thing for the United States, came out of hospital to rescue the United States? Do we have such a Senate? These are my questions.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, the reason why we put impeachment laws within our constitution is we envisioned a moment such as this, a moment where a governor has let down the people, and the leaders elected to represent the people must rise to the occasion and protect the common interest, the commonwealth, from the dastardly behavior of people such as Sonko.
All right, Barak, I can see you're itching to answer to that. But let's just delve into matters Nairobi Metropolitan Services. It was formed by the president just some time back. And we have seen a bit of some changes from the major general body. And according to you, then do you think that this is the solution to take Nairobi to the next step, or to reclaim the glory?
Wanjiru, I have written about that in my column in the recent past. And there are two things to be said about this. First, I'm happy about what I'm seeing the general and his colleagues, the soldiers, doing for Nairobi, that there is an improvement. But even as I am happy about that, it's the kind of happiness that one experiences following a military takeover. And we know that the military have their own place where they should be. We know that we have a constitution which delineates very clearly between things civilian and things military. So while I may be happy about the things that General Badi is doing, I'm also aware that two wrongs do not make a right. We need to get to the heart of the matter, the root cause of this thing. Mark Bichachi has said that we need to start addressing solutions. Populating the place with the military is not the solution, unless the civilian dispensation should in its totality surrender and say that we have failed, and we now cede this space for the military to reorganize us over a period of time. Then it can organize us to go back to a civilian rule, because we have even demonstrated that our elections themselves we cannot manage. So what we need to do first is very widespread and ongoing, unrelenting civic education. Forums and sessions such as we are having are very important, but they are only the starting point.
Right.
We must keep on talking about these things. When we see a city father who is running around with guns, showing people his rifles and saying that I have got this arsenal and this is just a part of it. When we see a city father who is sleeping in the streets and punching walls, and is over-decorated with the bling-bling, where is character in leadership? The people of this country must begin insisting on meritocracy, that we must populate the places of leadership with men and women of character, men of prudence who can make the right judgment. When they are faced with a situation, they make the right judgment because it is good for the population.
Have to agree that even the tallest tower was built bit by bit. Therefore, don't you think it's just a matter of time probably to give for the NMS, and we will probably see fruits?
I don't think so. In fact, I don't even fault the Nairobi Metropolitan Services. Mm-hmm. I do not have a quarrel with them.
Okay.
I think they are doing a good job, mm-hmm. but it is the right job in the wrong hands. Mm-hmm. There must be men and women of character in this society, in the civilian spaces, who can do the right thing. We end up with the wrong people because as political parties, mm-hmm. we go for cronyism, we go for hero worshippers. If I'm the leader of the party or I'm another party honcho, mm-hmm. I've got the opportunity to take decisions. Mm-hmm. I give that opportunity to the wrong person, maybe because he has come with money or because he has other assets, okay. which have got nothing to do with the qualities that should be inherent in a leader, mm-hmm. a person of courage, not recklessness. There's a difference between courage and recklessness. Courage is such that when you are in the Senate like today, mm-hmm. and you have got to make a decision, you have got the moral aptitude and uprightness to stand with your conscience and to stand with the people and to take the right decision, mm-hmm. regardless of where you have been whipped to vote differently.
All right. And probably just because of time, and before I give Mark a chance to also tell us what his opinion is, in very short words, probably in relation to just what you said, then do you think that before leaders, come to the office, should they be vetted?
They ought to be vetted. The laws of the land actually say they should be vetted, but we have got the same class of leaders diluting those laws. We saw how they diluted the laws that govern elections okay. just before the last parliament was dissolved, mm-hmm. and they will do it again and again. And okay. so my last word is that the civilians, the media, the faith-based fraternities, mm-hmm. the ethical and moral pillars of society should stand up now and start guiding the country and calling out bad leadership mm-hmm. for what it is.
All right. And now I will give a chance to Mark Bichachi to also give his comment on the same, on matters NMS. Mark, is your thoughts, or are your thoughts the same as those of Barack?
Well, my thoughts are this. Number one, that hard times call for hard decisions. You must be able to when they say, cometh the hour, cometh the man. And as far as we are concerned, Mbadi has risen to the challenge. He has met the challenges of Nairobi head on. Let us look at South B and the mattresses okay. that had been there for years, ensuring that people in South B have to buy water. They were removed. Let us look at the trucks that had been lined up for sale simply because no one wanted to fix them. Let us look at what is being done. Then if the proof of the eating of the pudding of the pie is in its eating, then definitely we're on the right course. But the question is how did we get to the point where instead of having a cure for the disease, then the cure itself needed a cure? We've become like the people of South Africa under Jacob Zuma, having the case where the people who fought for freedom now became the new oppressors, and South Africa needed freedom from the freedom fighters. And that's what we are talking about. So the real solution has to go back to the people of Nairobi. It has to go back to our political parties, and it has to go back to the definition of who a leader is. And we have got to ask ourselves the question that, are we going to vote in another governor where we will look to national government again, whether it is a Ruto government, a Raila government, a Mudavadi government, or whatever government, and beg them to save us from the consequences of our own votes. That is what we need to ask. When people tell me about the militarization of NMS, I am not oblivious of the fact. I'm not oblivious that that is not the correct modus operandi. But come on, if you, in your logical sense, could lift 2 legs out of bed, perambulate your brain and your hands to a voting center, to vote for someone who is intellectually your inferior, then for sure you need salvation. For sure you need an MS to come and save you. And this is the circumstance and the price we will keep paying, military or not, if we continue to vote for popularism, to continue to vote for Bongigenje kind of politics, and then forget that there are actual things that need to be done by actual adults who take seriously the fact that even the law recognizes that they're above 18. The people who take it seriously, that you can not go around insulting people. And this is the challenge we have as a people. We need to rise up. We need to stand up. And I am giving Kenyans a simple standard by which to vote. If in your primary school you could not select a prefect who was intellectually your junior, if you went to high school and you were offended when your principal selected the school captain to be the person who's also the captain of the bottom of the list, the captain of these, if you were offended, how is it that today you are okay and fine to have a leader whom you cannot have dinner with in your own house in the presence of your children because he will embarrass you?
All right,
that is where Kenyan society needs to fix it. So NMS is doing a good job, but this is a band-aid on a rotting corpse. And the question we have to ask ourselves as we continually vote for populism and vote for what we feel like instead of what we think should happen, and begin to, and this is what I find funniest. What I find funniest is consistently how professors with PhD will demonstrate outside the corridors of power. For how long? For how long?
All right,
this is the time
Mark.
for Kenyans to rise up.
I will have
this
to
is
cut
the time
you short.
for Kenyans to say enough is enough. It is a time for Kenyans to say that this idea that saying our leadership is corrupt, yet we chose 99.9% of them, apart from the likes of Millicent Omanga and those that we nominate. The rest we vote for. How is it that we complain for what we chose?
All right. Thank you, Mark, for that. And I will take that as your parting shot. Unfortunately, Barack, I will not give you much time for that because we are out of time. But thank you so much for...
I'll shoot some other day.
All right. The interview or conversation will continue some other time. Thank you so much for coming. Barack Muluka, communications advisor, also a writer in politics. And also thanks to Mark Bichachi, who is a communication strategist. Apparently, we weren't able to reach to Professor Peter Kagwanja, but we do thank you for your time. Well, we continue now with Matters Sports, where Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang scored his first goal in 6 matches as Arsenal ended a run of 3 straight Premier League defeats, overcoming Gabriel second half red card to hold for a 1-1 draw against Southampton. In other matches of the night, Liverpool beat Tottenham 2-1 to go top of the Premier League. Everton beat Leicester City